Hey guys, so today's notes are on angle rules. So you have some notes to fill out, just like yesterday, and then we have a worksheet that we're also going to do today to kind of put into practice the things that we're taking notes on. And these are just some more angle rules that we're going to go over. I know yesterday when we were looking at our interior angle theorem and exterior angle theorem, we talked about those vertical angles that are adjacent to each other. Opposite, excuse me, those angles that are opposite of each other and how they are equal. And we're going to look at a few more today in our notes. So your table of contents should have angle rules as the most recent page in your notebook, and then you're going to go to that page and glue in the notes that were attached for today. So we have angle rules for today. Now these are I wouldn't necessarily say they're doodle notes, but they are, there's plenty of room on here for you guys to add color, even more color than I have, and add your own thing to these notes. So you're going to fill them in as you go through this video with me. So we've got different types of angles. The first type is called an acute angle, and that is where the angle that you're looking at is less than 90 degrees. Okay, so it's tiny. It's called an acute angle for a reason. Your next angle is a right angle, and that's where it is exactly 90 degrees. Exactly. Your next angle is called an obtuse angle. These are very large. Not the largest, though. So these are angles that are in between 90 and 180. Okay, so they're going to be bigger than a 90-degree angle, but the biggest that they can get is 180 degrees, or a flat line. You can lay this down completely flat, and that's about it. And your last type of angle is called a reflex angle. So those are larger than 180. Those are very, very, very big. So we've got different kinds of angles that equal different types of measures. Acute, obtuse, and reflex can be different numbers. Right will always be 90 degrees and nothing else. But these are typically smaller, these are larger, and these are very big. You won't see too many of these, except for on the worksheet for today. But in general, you see more just acute, obtuse, or right. So there's different rules that we have. So again, like we've talked about multiple times at this point, if it is a straight line, so for one of your rules, if your angles form a straight line together, the sum is 180 degrees. This little symbol stands for sum, which just means that it's going to add up to. Okay, so let's say this angle right here is 110 degrees, because see how that's bigger than 90? If we pretend that that's 110, this must be something very specific to equal 180. 70. That's all that's left. It cannot add up to anything but 180. The second rule you have is if you're talking about a specific point and you're making angles off of a point, those are going to be angles that all together form one big circle or one big pie, which means the sum of those are going to be 360 degrees. Okay? So, for example, we could make these all different degrees. Again, I'll make this 110, like the first example. I'll make this 70, like the first example. And then, so that equals 180. These three down here also have to equal 180. So let's split them into even little pieces. 180 divided by 3 is 60. Okay, so let's say each one of these little pieces of the pie is 60. And all together, this is going to add up to give you 360. Rule number 3 says that opposite angles are actually equal to each other. And we saw this yesterday with a few of our problems on the worksheet. So if they are opposite of each other, they're going to match up and be the exact same size. Because again, these two lines are going to create the same angles on both sides. So these two angles are going to equal the same thing. And these two will also be the same degrees. They're equal to each other. So those are, when we remember those are fun little rules that help us find the answers a little bit quicker sometimes. Looking at the next rule, it's three-part rule here. We have different types of angles. It's called corresponding, alternate, and supplementary angles. So if we have an angle or if we have a line and then two parallel lines cut through that same line, as long as these lines are parallel and we know that they are exactly the same, they're going to make the exact same angles up here that they make down here. So these two lines right here are parallel lines. That's important so that we know that they're moving the same way. One's not cutting at a different angle than the other. So when we have those parallel angles, what you get are corresponding angles, which is where they're opposite to each other. So if this were angle B, and this were angle C, those would be corresponding angles, meaning that they are equal. And again, the example that I'm giving you is angle B and angle C. They're the same, right? They are making the same exact degree on both sides because this line that's cutting through is going to make the same degree over here as it is here. Now, the second part of this is that whatever angles occur up here, the same ones are also going to occur down here because these are two parallel lines. So these two are also the exact same angles. Right? So the same up top as the bottom because these parallel lines are doing the same thing to both. Alternate angles is our next example that we have. And an alternate angle, it means they're opposite of each other, right? So our alternate angle here would be this one and this one. So A and D. So alternate angles are equal to each other, but also, let me color these in. And the reason we know they're equal is because of all the rules that we've kind of already talked about. So if we look at angle D and angle E, they're alternate. So D and E are equal to each other because if D and A equal each other because they're opposite angles, well then A and E are the exact same angle because what happens up top happens at the bottom. And so if these are equal and these are equal, then these are equal. So there's lots of different rules, and I'm trying to color code them to help us see that. If they are opposite each other, they're the same. And so what happens up here is also happening down here, which means these are the same. But you can also know that whatever this bottom is, that its alternate angle down here is going to be equal to it. Then the last one is a supplementary angle, and that is where we'll do orange. The sum is going to equal 180. Okay, and that's that straight line. It's a straight line. So if we were to look at, honestly, well, let's just look at G and H because we don't have that many arrows going to it. The sum of G and H are going to be 180. But also D and F, right? Because D and B will equal 180, but B and F are equal. They're the same. So you could also just say these two middle ones will equal 180. So whenever you see straight lines, everything should be adding up to 180 degrees. That's what a supplementary angle is. And then the last rule, we talked about this yesterday, I believe. And that is that triangles, the interior is going to give you a sum of 180 degrees. So all of those triangles will be 180 degrees. So this angle, and this angle. And there's different types of triangles, and we're not going to get into that just yet. We're going to get into that when we talk more about congruence and different rules and different types of triangles and how you can tell if the sides are equal and if it's an equilateral triangle or not. But this is just a refresher on different angles and how they add up and how they work. And so now you have a worksheet that you're going to do for today, now that our notes are done. And I think the page that was posted on the computer had an extra part underneath this. You can cut that off. You don't need that. So your worksheet for today is just basic angle rules. You're finding the missing angle. So you have some angles that, again, they add up to, it's a straight line. So the total of angle A and this 50 degrees should add up to 180. In this one, we know that opposite angles are equal. And then in this one, if it's around a fixed point, the total of all of them should be 360. So we've got notes on all of these. Straight line, opposite angles, interior angles, around a fixed point. We've got all these. What you don't need to do is the challenge questions that are listed, because some of them have, they're talking about different types of triangles and if the sides are the same, and we haven't quite got there yet. If you want to try some of these, go for it, but that's not necessary. I'm just looking at getting these answered. So that's it for your video notes today. Different angle rules, different types of angles. And once you know that, you can complete the worksheet and get that completed for today. Tomorrow, we're going to go over triangle congruence. And that is a lot of notes for tomorrow. So I'm going to apologize in advance. And good luck on your notes today and your worksheet for today.